Hi, welcome to the Black and White Sessions. We are thrilled today to have the lovely Ayana Haviv. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, of course. This is really exciting because, this is really exciting for me because I feel like you're kind of a departure from a lot of what we've seen at the Black and White Sessions. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't know this, but I'm going to tell her I'm extremely jealous of you, and this is why. I have always wanted to be in an opera, mostly because of the hair and the wigs and the makeup. And
that's the funnest part.
Oddly enough, a corset and the big dress. I don't know why. At least just for an hour.
Yes.
Or a photo shoot. I don't know.
Yeah, the corset is really uncomfortable and really hard to sing in. And the dresses are sometimes, they weigh like 30 pounds.
Wow.
And it is, that part, it's fun because you look really nice, but it gets old. That part gets old.
That part gets old.
The corsets get old.
So the novelty wears off. And
yeah, but opera's super fun.
But it is beautiful,
yeah.
And there is something that I love that, even today you can go to the opera.
Yeah.
And that people have been going to the opera for centuries, mm-hmm. and the fact that that is something that has continued on, mm-hmm. Is so great. Well, I just have a couple of questions for you. Ayana works in film and television, mostly off camera, mm-hmm. and you do sing a lot of choral music, but you have done a lot of different styles. Mm-hmm. And we were talking a little bit before this interview about the concept of if you do work in choral music, it's hard to be seen as someone who does anything other than that, or in your case, working in opera and beyond and all of that. So talk to us a little bit about that, like how is that for you and that perception, and what do you do to try to get people to know that you can do other things? Right.
Well, yeah, it's true. In the old days, before I was a session singer, I had an indie band, and then I also was a classical singer. That was my training, was classical. Mm-hmm. And I had to kind of keep the two almost a secret from each other, because in the classical world, if you said that you also sang pop, that was really looked down upon, mm-hmm. and people assumed that there's no way you could have proper technique, classical technique, if you also sang pop. And then in the rock and roll, indie world, if you said you also sing classical, people just assume, well, you're not rock and roll then, there's no way. Yeah. So I had to kind of just keep them both on the down low until I found out about session singers and what we do, and that versatility can be actually a positive thing, mm-hmm. in our business. And that was great. All of a sudden, it was the first time I felt at home that I could just say, hey, I do this and this and this and this. So it was great for that reason.
Well, and I really love that you've been able to do that. And I feel like, there's not a lot of singers, honestly, at least that I know of, in town that are able to float in those worlds, because they kind of get branded and labeled.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, bye, that's it. That's what you do, And so that is something that I think is an issue for mm-hmm. today's singers, people who are working professionally, and something that I guess the powers that be need to continue to strive to better, so that you can have opportunities and I can have opportunities, and we can flip-flop worlds a little bit more than we currently do.
That's true.
So we're bringing awareness. Something else I'd love to talk to you about is the fact that you are Jewish, mm-hmm. and we've had a lot of people in this Black and White Session interviews talk about how they came out of the church, and they sang in their church choirs, and that was their start. And I feel like for you, what did that look like, mm-hmm. and how did it come to be?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question, because if you're Jewish in America, you tend to play the violin or the piano. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're kind of overrepresented also among composers, music engineers. Yes. Not so much singers, mm-hmm. Except for there's a lot of singer-songwriters and stuff, but not so much singers. I was thinking in Master Chorale, I'm one of maybe like out of 110 people, I think there's 2, 3, 4 Jews, depending on how you define being Jewish.
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, we are about 2% of the American population, so that's about right. But we're overrepresented in instrumentalists. So I think that, unfortunately, in America in general, singers, it's considered like not as like intellectual of a pursuit, you know, as playing the violin or the piano, which is like much more respectable and, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's partly why Jewish families tend to steer their kids maybe in that direction if they're musical. The other thing is that church is the choral music tradition is a huge part of church. You know, I mean, church music and Western art music are almost exactly the same, and they go together. Yeah. And in a synagogue, you know, the way I grew up, I sing tons of folk songs, but they're not written out. You know, they're not. Everybody's kind of making up harmonies and doing a lot of congregational singing, but there's no hymnal that has, you know, so people don't grow up sight reading the same way they do at church. There's choirs in some synagogues. Mostly they don't have choirs. So your exposure to choral music or singing in general is from the radio and from, you know, maybe school music programs, and school music programs ain't what they used to be, unfortunately. So, so that's, I think that's why a lot of people grew up singing in the church, and then if you're Jewish, you tend to, And it was also never considered, I mean, in my family, we had it was very musical family. We listened to a ton of music and we sang a lot. My mom is a great amateur singer and so on. So, you know, we did lots and lots of singing, but it was never considered like a viable career. That's just not something you did for a living. That's something you do for fun, you know. Yeah. You're a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher. Yeah. So
and how did they feel about your career choice?
Well, currently they are very supportive, but that's also because they've seen that it can be successful. I wasn't leaving, before I was a professional singer, I was in academia. So that was not exactly like a stable career choice either. So that had an advantage. It wasn't like I was leaving like Harvard Business School to try to be a singer. I was, you know, leaving a even possibly more fraught career path to do it. So, you know.
Well, that worked in your favor.
Yes. But no, it wasn't, everyone thought I was crazy. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just so fascinating, and I think you're so fascinating, and it is interesting, and of course I love people from different cultures and learning something new, and you guys will have seen her Black and White session, obviously, by the time you see this interview. Your song was so beautiful.
Thanks.
And can you just give a little bit of the history of, or what the song means? Because I know a lot of people may see our interview and say, well, I need to go back and watch it again now that I know what she was singing.
Right. Well, I'll try to post in a comment on the interview the translation.
Oh, great.
But it's the lyrics are a poem by like the Israeli national poet Chaim Nachman Bialik, and it means the title is "Take Me Under Your Wing," and he's talking to God as a mother or a sister, and he's experiencing a crisis of faith, which he came from a very, very ultra-Orthodox community in Odessa in the Ukraine, and he was very, this was at the turn of the last century, pretty oppressive kind of ultra-religious community, and then coming to Israel where it was completely secular and the other extreme, and he was trying to navigate those two worlds, and that's what the song is about, and I relate to it a lot, so. Yeah. And it's a song that I've known since I was a little kid, that I grew up with. And because you have such amazing pop singers on the Black and White sessions, I wanted to do something maybe a little different that was maybe something that more was close to my upbringing. So.
Well, we're so glad you did.
Thanks.
We are so thankful for you just giving of your time and sharing with us your just incredible talent. And we wish you the best.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you. See ya.